This is a quick video about how to install and utilize the payACH product. First, we need to start our browser and download the payACH product from the payach.com website. It'll redirect you to the product page under the bsc.com address. If you'll scroll down to the download link and click on the download link, go ahead and save the file. Once it's done, go ahead and choose the Run option. You will receive this message stating that the file was not signed, but press the Run Anyway link. It will pop up a new window behind the screen asking you where to extract these files for the setup program. You can go ahead and select the Unzip option. It will now start executing the setup program. Go ahead and select Yes to it. On the first screen, go ahead and press OK. On the next screen, leave the ACH entry 32 directory the same and press this button here to start the install. Leave the program group the same. During the installation, it will show you what files are being moved to what folders. There will be a few files that the product comes up with and talking about a version conflict, and it says that the file is newer on your computer than the file on this install. Do you wish to keep the file? Yes, you want to keep the file that is currently on your computer because it is newer based on the patches that Microsoft has already provided. So say yes to that. Once complete, press OK. You can press the close button for this part of the installer. Now from the start menu, you will now have a new entry under payACH 32, and the product will show payACH 32. You can right click on it to pin to start, and once you start, it will start as a demo. Go ahead and press OK. It gives you a 30-day demo. Press OK. On this screen, it's asking for the initial password and PIN number that you will use for the product. The next step is to determine where your company is located. This is typically filled out by you with your company name, your tax ID, and then these fields are based on what your bank is going to require you to fill in for these. This could be your name, it could be your bank's name, but typically this is showing who is going to originate these transactions on behalf of you. So in this field, I'm going to just go ahead and say my bank and provide a regular ABA number, and then I'll just say that this is the Fed Dallas, since we are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Now this value is also not a real value, but we'll just go ahead and use those. Since we are in the Dallas side, the southern region, these options are just specifically used for the tax systems when you're using the tax transaction types. Go ahead and press save. You now have a new entry in here, which this allows you to have multiple companies in the system. Go ahead and press exit. Our next step in the process of an ACH transaction is to create a batch header. The batch header is just considered a grouping of transactions. So in this case, it might be a payroll, or it could be dues for something. You choose the next payment date that this is going to effectively pull funds from somebody's account or push funds to that account. In this case, we could say it's a Friday payroll, so the 4/26 could be a good day for that. There is the option for you to specifically specify different effective dates for transactions inside this grouping of transactions by unchecking this globally assigned option. But by having this globally assigned, it will always use this date as the effective date for all transactions. You can decide if this is going to be an individual payment or a recurring payment. If it chooses a recurring payment, it does show you how often will this payment happen. It still requires you to access the software in order to make these recurring transactions get saved to an ACH file, but it tracks through how many times you've made those payments. On the transaction code options, in the demo product, or in all of the products, it allows you to select many different types of options. The typical process for a payroll option is going to be a prearranged payment and deposit entry. So we can select that option. But we do have things like a CTX to provide EDI information if you needed to do that, CCD records. There is the general ledger functionality inside the system. There is also ARCs for if you received a bunch of paper checks that you wanted to convert into ACH. There's also some tax payment options between federal, state, and local. We do also support the destroyed check entry and the web entry. So I'm going to select the PPD option, and by default it generates a quick title for this transaction, but this is the value that will actually go in the ACH file. So you can call this payroll BFC or something to that effect. If you notice, it did stop me from typing an extra digit. There are limits to certain fields, and so in this case, this one was limited to what appears to be about 10 characters long, which is the length of this batch header's description that it can be. Next, we have a transaction type. This decides if the whole batch is going to be a credit one, which in this case is going to put money into your account and debit detail record accounts, meaning that will take money from the accounts listed in the other list. In this case, if you choose debit, it's the other direction, where the funds will be coming from your account and crediting or putting money onto the records that you create in the batch. If you choose mixed, you have the option of selecting which way it's going to go. The next step is going to be deciding which company is going to be assigned to this, so you could run multiple companies' payroll through this system. And then finally, this next section about creating an offset record, this is dependent upon if you're using a credit, debit, or mixed. This is where the funds are going to come from to make up the shortfall of any particular transaction. So say you had a $100 debit to somebody's account, then where does that money go? So this is that situation. So in this case, I'm just going to make, for test purposes, we're just going to make this random number up. And we'll go ahead and say we chose our bank as all ones and an 8 at the end. So in this case, DDA, is this offsetting account going to be a checking account or a savings account? And you can go ahead and press save once you're done with that. If you notice, there is a reversal status that if you did have this batch saved, you did have records created, it can allow you to create a reversal product or a reversal ACH file if you accidentally submitted an ACH file incorrectly. So go ahead and press save. Now that we're back to the home screen, we now have a drop down that we can select the payroll batch here, and then we could always choose enter detail. If this field was still blank, it asks you which batch you want to edit. So we'll go ahead and choose payroll. In the payroll, we have a location number, location name, amount, account, and routing number. And if you'll notice, everything is crediting this account for money. So they're going to give money to this account. So we can make up some locations and just say Jim Bob is here, and the amount will be $300 for him. His account will be some number, routing number. We'll make it that value. If you note, it does have the option to give you a pre-note. A pre-note would send a $0 transaction to Jim Bob's account to identify that you're going to start crediting this account with funds. You would typically need to do pre-notes on debit transactions. So if you'll also notice that once I unchecked pre-note, the amount did come back to the $300. We do need to say if it's a DDA, meaning checking, or if it's a savings account. We also have the ability to right-click on this record and do an addenda edit and provide the 80 characters extra of the addenda record if we wanted to. So 80 characters of description. Save and exit. If we scroll to the right, we do have an order column, and really what that is doing is as you add new records, it provides a mechanism for us to sort what the order that they were inserted in. There is also the ability from the home screen to decide that you wanted to sort by the location number or location name in the event that you had a different sort order that you wanted to utilize. So let's just do Kelly Green, and we'll make it $400 for her, and we'll choose another bank for her. If you'll notice, these do have a drop down, and let me go ahead and check. I selected the account type, but in the drop down right now it's empty, and let me go ahead and show you how to get those to work. So to exit the screen, just go ahead and say save and exit. It will now save the information that was there. So under the utilities menu, we have a sort option. So right here we can detail sort by location number. So if you saw that we had 800 and then 400, so now if we chose this option and we chose payroll, we now have 4,000 and then 8,000. So we now have the ordering different. But if you scroll to the right, you do still see the old original order in increments of 5. When everything is done, you go ahead and say save to queue. In this situation, we have the demo mode running, so it's going to tell us that we can't do that until we register the software package. When we're ready to do that, we can go ahead and choose under Utilities and say Software Activation. It provides you a phone number to call, and we can then set you up with one of these purchase options. There's a few different options that are possible. With the direct deposit edition, we have 5 batches maximum, so you can set up 5 different batches with 1,000 transactions maximum across all 5 batches. So if you had 250 per batch, you could, well, 250 is not going to quite make that number, but if you had 200 in all of the different 5 batches, then it would reach your 1,000 transactions maximum. And these are the different prices for it, and it is on a yearly basis. There is some more detail about what a direct deposit edition does down here, specifically what transaction types that are supported versus a standard edition when you're doing a few other different transaction types. So with that said, let me go ahead and register the product for us, and then I'll come back and we can see the actual output file. Once you put in the trigger code for the product and you press the OK button, you'll receive a message when it was successful that action was complete for extending the program. You press OK, then it will explain that the program has to be restarted to take effect. Go ahead and press OK. So it disappears on us, but we'll go ahead and start it again. Once we log into the product, we can now go back into our detail records. And if you'll notice, my license now expires a year from now. And now we have our records back in here. We'll hit Save to Queue. This is where that original PIN number was that you go ahead and provide for the product. It tells you what your original effective date was, and it's going to ask you if you want to change it. I don't need to change it, but if you said yes, it pops up with a calendar, or at least it comes back here to the batch header, and then you can change that value. Press that. You'll now see a red medallion. The next step that you need to do is go to the queue summary. You can double click on the queue summary to see the records in the batch. If you notice, here's your third record, that's the offset, and if you scroll to the right, you actually see that it does say it's a debit transaction, so it's going to pull the money from this bank account to pay these other 2 accounts. We do have the ability to print these detail records to I'm trying to find one that we can print to a PDF file or something to see what the file looks like. So you can save it. And the next thing, once you are satisfied with the batch, you can choose to delete the batch, or you can choose to release the batch. Just a second. Okay, so once you are done with printing or saving or verifying the batch is all correct, you can now choose to release the batch. If we go ahead and choose release batch, it's going to ask you for your PIN number again. So once you choose your PIN, it's now cleared from your queue. You can have multiple batches into this queue, and when you choose release batch, it will then group everything into single files to reduce your costs when you submit to your bank. Your file is now ready to be transmitted, so you can select transmit files. It's going to ask you where do you wish to place this file. I'm going to go ahead and select a folder somewhere. How about if I chose downloads folder today and I press OK. So now the file is gone. At this point, you will need to take your file and deliver it to your bank through whatever interface they've provided for you. But here is the file that it outputs. So if we go ahead and open this in a notepad, we can see the content of the file. So in this case, here was our bank, our Fed Reserve. Here's our bank that we're originating from. Here's the different names of the banks. Down here is our different values that we were using. This was our company name. This was the batch header name. And then this was the description that we used. There is our tax ID for this record, the effective date of this transaction, and then you see the individual records. And you also see our addenda record here. You also see the Kelly Green record, the offset record at the end, and then you see the batch totals. The system supports many records. You can support many different configurations. There are some options that you may want to use. Maybe your bank only wants you to use numbers for your file ID modifiers. That can be done. Do they want it with an offsetting record or not? Do they want it with carriage return and line feeds, or do they all want it just one long line? All of those things can be configured in the system. Going back to your company information, you do have the ability to send just the company ID instead of this originator bank information like this. Depends on what your bank wants as to how you want to do that. We also have the ability to import a file, and you can choose a CSV file, an ACH file, or a CSV file. All those different types of files can be used to import the records. So in this case, it recognized that it was a Nacha file. It's got a batch name, so if we go ahead and continue, it says, is this a new batch? And we can say yes. And there's already one in there, so do I want to erase the previous information? And I'm going to just try and say no, but it looks like we're just going to say yes here, I guess. So it's going to go ahead and put it in here, and then it's imported. If you kind of look at this, I believe now we have 2 records of everything. So we have everything in the world in here with the credits and debits. So with that said, you can do that same thing with other import files. There is also a way that if you wanted to take everything in your system, you can say, I want to generate batches for all my batches that have effective dates between certain periods of time. So let me select today. I don't know why we're all the way in 2015, but let me see if I can select something from today. Whoops, back it up. Here's our today. So today through, that's very strange. Alright, so if we just choose a wide range of batches, it'll create another set of records. If you'll notice, it has 8 items this time because of all those other imports that we made. And that works there. The security setup screen allows you to set up multiple users to access the program, and then you can give them access as to how far they can go down the path of being able to create headers, change the amounts, change the batch details, or any of the other details within the system. And you can delete the user, reset pins, show passwords, different things to that effect. The security on-off option allows you to turn off the password screen when you first start the application. Tax codes, these allow you to configure the different types of tax codes. We don't have all the states, but it does allow you to add specific state tax code information. So inside the Fed, if you wanted to do a withholding federal income, if you chose that, if you notice that the valid months are available, and then you can specify what the tax code is. There are other ones that have subfields in it. When you chose a tax code, you can specify which tax element you're paying on. And with that said, we hope that you find the payACH product helpful as you continue to utilize your ACH experiences. Please let us know if there's anything that we can do to help you in your needs of the electronic check world.